regular meeting of the Finance Committee of May 3rd, 2021 at approximately 5:02 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Here.
Counselor Villarreal,
Present.
Counselor, Lindell. Counselor Lindell.
She's not here, so
Okay.
we'll see if she
Counselor
joins us.
Romero Worth
I'm here.
and Counselor Beta.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. The first item is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes from staff?
No changes at this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, changes from the committee. Can I have a motion regarding the agenda?
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, I believe Councilwoman Cassette Sanchez seconded. Can I have a roll call, please?
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell, Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
and Counselor Beta.
Yes. Okay, so that brings us to item 4, which is approval of the consent agenda. Are there items from the committee to be removed from the consent agenda?
No,
Councilwoman Villarreal.
You disappeared for a moment. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Let's see. I have a question for just clarification for item A. Question for E. Wait, quick question. For some reason, for item G, it says request to publish. But I thought we already did that at the governing body. So are we actually considering that bill?
It's a different bill, Mr. Chair.
I hear you, but we published it.
Yes, we approved the request to publish there. I thought it was weird that was here too, but
Yeah, and
We-
it says it's going to be heard according to our agenda today. So I don't know why the caption reads request to publish.
So that was my question. I was going to pull that because I had questions on it, but then the caption was incorrect. So I'm not sure what we need to do for that.
Let's see. What we could do is we can, it doesn't go to a governing body till the 26th. So maybe we can just move it to another finance committee meeting to make sure that we get the caption and everything correct. If that's what the committee wants to do.
I'm fine with that, just because I don't know what the protocol is, but since it was not noticed
Okay, so
correctly, the caption, so,
we'll postpone that.
okay. So then I won't pull that. I just have a quick question for A and E.
A and E, okay.
Yes.
A, E, postpone G. Are there other items we want to remove from the consent agenda? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
yes.
and Counselor Beta.
Yes. Okay, so that's been approved. Oh yeah, and I just got a text from Counselor Lindell. She was going out of town. So mark her as excused, please.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so then that brings us to approval of the minutes. The first are the regular Finance Committee meeting minutes of April 19th, 2021. Are there any changes from staff?
No changes, Mr. Chair.
Changes from the committee? Can I have a motion regarding those minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
and Counselor Beta.
Yes. Okay, the special finance budget hearings of April 13th, 2021.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
and Counselor Beta.
Yes. The special finance budget hearings of April 14th, 2021.
To approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
Counselor Beta.
Yes. Okay, can I have a motion regarding the special finance budget hearings of April 15th, 2021?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
Counselor Beta.
Yes. Can I have a motion regarding the special finance budget hearings of April 20th, 2021?
Move to approve.
Second.
Can I have a
That'll
roll
be-
call, please?
Yes. Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
and Counselor Beta.
Yes. Okay, and the minutes for the special finance budget hearings of April 21st, 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. And a second, can I have a roll call, please?
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
Counselor Beta.
Yes. Okay, and finally, can I have a motion regarding the special finance budget hearing meeting minutes of April 22nd, 2021?
To approve.
Second.
Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
Counselor Beta.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to action items, the items that were removed from consent. The first being A, which was a request for approval of amendment number 2 to contract number 19-0384 with Vladimir Jones Praco to increase the compensation for FY21 in the amount of $175,000. Councilwoman Rael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Randall, for joining us. Just a quick question. So in fiscal year 21, wasn't this contract for Vladimir Jones fully funded?
Mr. Chair, Counselor, it was fully funded.
Okay, so if it was fully funded, yet they weren't able to do what they were able to do because of COVID, some of the plans weren't executed. So why are we giving them more money to be able to do what they said they were going to do in fiscal year 21? Don't we have money left over then?
Mr. Chair, Counselor, we did save money up to use in this last quarter, and this will just give us more marketing that we can do at this time. We were able to save some funds for some funding that we were not able to initiate this fiscal year because of COVID, and because the state is not doing any marketing yet for tourism to the state. It's our opinion that it would be best to use these funds and go ahead and increase the advertising budget for our city in the next, that will be expended in the months of May, June, and actually it'll take us into July because we're able to, per the procurement code, we're able to prepay on advertising. So it will carry us into July, and there'll be absolutely no gap in our campaign as we pick up the new funds that are available starting in July.
So the funds that were not used, then where do they go? I guess I'm trying to understand, why would we give them more money? I know that we need to do extra promotion, but then we had that funding that wasn't used. So did that go towards something else?
Mr. Chair, Counselor, no, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. That funding, it was not fully expended during the months we expected it to be, and it will be expended by June 30th. This would be an extra $175,000 to actually spend an additional amount to help our partners, help get tourism restarted in Santa Fe.
And so the extra amount, the 175,000, that specifically would be earmarked for what kind of activities that's different from the regular contract, or from the regular contract, what would be emphasized?
Mr. Chair, Counselor, it would include, it would strengthen what we're doing currently. It would be used primarily in digital. 40,000 of it, we actually took $40,000 out of our available funds and initiated a campaign through Travel Zoo to bring people in on a longer stay in May and June. It's a very quick fuse. That was $40,000. So this would replace that $40,000, as well as give us another $135,000 to just, actually, we'll just strengthen our exposure. We'll probably broaden it a little bit. We don't do much currently in the Austin market, and we will strengthen that. We will push into Chicago a little bit as we. The other part is that on May the 3rd, actually today, our flights increased. Our flights coming into Santa Fe have increased significantly. So we need to push a little harder in Dallas, and we will. Denver has now 3 flights instead of 1. And that's primarily a connector flight. 80% of the people who come in on that flight are coming from other locations more in the Midwest, but a lot from Chicago. We weren't doing anything in Phoenix, but that flight has been restarted as well. And so this would include expanding our advertising into Phoenix to try to put people on those, the 2 flights a day that we're getting in from there.
Got it. Okay. And so will the advertising also include additional information as it relates to our requirements, COVID practices, and, our city-specific ordinances on on masking?
Mr. Chair, Counselor, yes. The whole purpose of our advertising is to drive people to our website. And all of that is explained on our website. So the key is to get people on our site, and then they can find out what the restrictions are. But they can also, I'm still getting a lot of questions as to, is there still a quarantine? And if people are thinking there's a quarantine, they're not coming to Santa Fe. So we need to, and because there's no marketing being allowed by the state, we're all municipalities, Albuquerque, Santa Fe particularly, are picking up and doing what we can to get the word out that in fact we are open for visitation, and if restrictions are followed, there's no issues in enjoying Santa Fe.
Got it. That was helpful. So what did you say? The state's not utilizing funding to promote New Mexico? What, can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Mr. Chair, Counselor, yes, the governor has not told the tourism department, the state tourism department, that they can actually spend their marketing budget. She, frankly, I guess, does not want visitation still. And so their funds have not been released. In fact, you'll be seeing very soon a grant coming through to the city of Santa Fe from the state of $300,000 to be approved that would come in this fiscal year to allow us to promote the convention center specifically, because that has a longer lead time. And so she is allowed to spend some money there.
Sounds good. Okay. And as long as we're not following the New Mexico True advertising that recently came out that was very problematic and got a lot of bad press, I think we'll be okay. I think that's it. Thanks, Randy.
Okay, Councilwoman Cassette Sanchez.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Randy, for being here. I just have a quick clarification just from that questioning that I wanted to make sure I'm understanding. So we had allocated 1.3 in the 1.3 million to Vladimir Jones in the FY21 budget. That will all be expended by June 30th. This additional 175,000 is coming from savings in other areas of the department budget. Can you tell me what areas there was? I know that there was a mention of the film office. Were there other areas that we didn't expend dollars, and what were they?
Mr. Chair, Council, you're correct. 50,000 came from the film office. About 75 or 80,000 of this came from other consulting. There was money in there to provide to some events that were scheduled in Santa Fe that didn't happen during COVID. I don't have at my fingertips the exact list. It was done on a bar, and we used to include that bar with these requests, but we were told we were not to include that because I think it would have provided the specific information. I don't have it at my fingertips.
Okay, if you're able to just send that over, that would be interesting to see. And then do you know if those are, the film office got funded from some other source this year, correct?
Mr. Chair, Councilor, it got funded from actually fund balances that had built up since the creation of the film office. And so the funding required was not required this fiscal year by either the city or the county to continue it on for this year.
And then the other, you may not have this at your fingertips now, but the other areas that we did not provide that fund or did not need to expend the funding last fiscal year, do you foresee us needing to expend it this year? You know.
Mr. Chair, Councilor, it is in the fiscal 22 budget. Yes, we have restored that funding in the fiscal 22 that's just been approved. And we certainly do anticipate, it was 20,000, I think, for Music Week, 15 or 20,000 for Art Week, 15,000 for Literature Week, none of which happened in this current fiscal year. So they are in the budget for next fiscal year, and we certainly do intend to expend those funds.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much for clarifying that piece for me. That was all.
Okay, is there a motion regarding item 6A?
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, any further discussion? Can I have a roll call, please?
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
and Counselor Beta.
Yes. Okay, that item passes. So that brings us to item E, which is a request for approval of the road transfer agreement between Nmdot and the city of Santa Fe that transfers road maintenance responsibilities for segments of Cerrios Road, St. Michael's Drive, and Old Pecos Trail to the city of Santa Fe. Councilwoman Rael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Rosado, for joining us. Just a clarification piece. I mean, this is a hefty load of additional work for us. And while I think it's important, though, just because there's always confusion about who controls what in terms of jurisdiction, I was just curious about the section of Cerrios from St. Michael's to St. Francis heading east. That section is supposed to be, I thought the next section that they'll be doing to complete the whole roadway improvements. for Cerrios. So I was curious if you could tell me about what the plan is, or the timeline for repaving that section from Cerrios to St. Michael's, and if that's going to happen before we take over or before the road transfer agreement is executed.
No, that won't happen before August 1st. According to the Nmdot, the timeline, they are just starting the design on that section, and the timeline to complete that project is about 2 to 3 years.
So does that mean that we would then take on that cost of improving that section of Cerrios?
No, Nmdot will do the project and will transfer after they complete it.
Okay. So that section will still remain in for DOT's jurisdiction until they finish the construction of that section,
That's correct.
and then it'll be transferred to us?
Yes.
Okay, because that's a pretty difficult area between or right across from the Santa Fe Indian School. We've had so many problems and complaints, and DOT has been looking at ways to improve it. I just don't want it to land on us and then not have them take responsibility. So what you're telling me though is they'll finish that, and then that section will be then moved to our jurisdiction.
That's correct.
Okay. I think that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Councilwoman Romero Worth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to point out that these road transfers are really important for our street lighting project because it will allow us to do a lighting design plan that meets our community's needs instead of being bound by the state requirements. And I don't know, Mr. Rosario, do you want to comment on that at all?
Yeah. Good afternoon, Chair and Councilor. The transfer those roads to the city would allow the city to work outside with the specs that are being developed for the streetlight project, and those being city-owned and roads won't be subject to the Nmdot specs. So that will give us more room to work with.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to emphasize how important these road transfers are. And I think from my understanding is we've also taken into consideration that we didn't want them transferred prior to them being up the improvements made. So again, I just echo Councilor Rael that, we certainly don't want to take them before the improvements have been made, but it's my understanding that they will be in good shape when they are transferred. Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Cassette Sanchez.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Rosado, for being here. Quick follow-up on that question. If I'm understanding our documents correctly, that there are some updates that we'll need to be doing on a few of these roads, but we'll be getting reimbursed by the state, but the city is taking on the work of making those. I think it's some ADA improvements and a few other pieces. Am I correct there?
Councilor Chair, yeah, there's some ramps, ADA improvement and drainage inlet that needs to be done in St. Michael's and all Pecos Trail. We will need to work and define a scope and get a cost estimate for those projects, and eventually entering a new agreement with Nmdot to reimburse that money.
Thank you for clarifying that. My other question had to do with, there's a mention in the memo regarding the request for 4 additional equipment operators and the purchase of a new sweeper and dump truck. And that I believe that the staff was approved and the FY22 budget was included, but that the equipment was not. And then it said that they'll not have additional equipment required to maintain these roads until late 2021 or early 2022. So if it wasn't improved in the FY22 budget, why will we then be getting them in late, either later this year or early next calendar year?
Or I talked with Tomas Martinez on the street division, and he's working to look for funds to get those equipment sometime during the next year. Right now, they were not approved. You are completely right on that. They were not approved, but he's still working to get them.
Okay, so we're looking for additional funding for that. And then in terms of how we balance the workload with not having the additional equipment right now, I'm curious what the plan is for that, and how do we foresee that impacting street maintenance throughout the rest of the city?
That's a question, Councilor and Chair. I think that Tomas will be better fit to answer that question than me. I know that he's working with a plan to do so, but I don't have all the details.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rosado. That is completely understandable, and I'm sure that Tomas is on top of it, so I'll be sure to reach out to him to get that additional information. I have no further questions. Thank you so much again.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Garcia is with us and his hand is up. Councilor Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess I just wanted to ask a bit of clarification from Mr. Rosado, because it was my understanding in regards to the streetlights that any of our Nmdot roadways throughout the city of Santa Fe, the lighting that is currently installed on them, we are currently in compliance. And if we kept the lighting as is, we do not need to update them. We can keep the lighting as is and wait for new specifications when they are issued. In my understanding, it's going to probably be in 2022 or early 2023, and we can then update in regards to the new specs. So there's not that rush, so to speak, as we kind of felt in the initial lighting plan, that we needed to rush and get the Nmdot lights changed in with the specs that were currently on book. So I just wanted to make sure that I'm clear, because we are in compliance and there's not a rush to get these lights changed, and we can keep them and wait until new specs are issued.
Mr. Rosado.
Councilor, Mr. Chair, Councilor Garcia is right. The Nmdot is working on a revision of the lighting specification for the Nmdot roads, and that will apply for the section between St. Francis and San Michael's on Cerrios. What I meant when I made the clarification, and when I made the clarification earlier, is that having those roads under city responsibility will give us room to work with different options of lighting if we decided to go through that route.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Rosado. I know that there's been lots of information out there, and I want to make sure that the broader public clearly understands that we do not have to update any Nmdot lighting as of right now. And even as we begin this project, it can ultimately wait for a couple years, and we'll still be in good standards with our partners at Nmdot. And then once the new specs are issued, the lighting that the community has been requesting will most likely be on that spec sheet, and then we can update those roads then. No other questions, Mr. Chair, but thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Councilwoman Romero Worth.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify that my earlier comments were about the fact that once these Nmdot roads become City of Santa Fe roads, we are no longer bound to the Nmdot specs. And in fact, we also will not have to wait a year or two while Nmdot comes up with new specs, because these particular roads will no longer be Nmdot roads. So they are under our control. Now, there still are a couple of roads that are Nmdot, and so we will have to wait for the lighting specs on those roads, because again, they are Nmdot roads. But these roads that are being transferred to us, we are going to control the lighting under our specifications, under our designing plan, and there is no need to wait to do the changes on these streets or to match Nmdot specifications. correct?
Yes, that's correct, Chair and Councilor. Actually, we do have an email from Nmdot that we don't even need to wait until August 1st. They authorize us if we are ready to replace the lighting on those roads that have been part of this transfer agreement. The only requirements that we comply with all the traffic control requirements from Nmdot, but they already approve and allow us to do the transfer if we are ready to do it before the effective date of this transfer.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Move to approve.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
and Counselor Beta.
Yes. Okay, so that brings us to matters from staff. Alexis, did you have anything?
No matters from staff, Mr. Chair.
Okay, matters from the committee? No, okay, and then I don't have anything. Our next meeting is Monday, May 17th. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you. Good night.